Okay, so today we're going to create this torn paper seascape. We're going to start it today and finish it in the next class. We are creating values of color, lightness or darkness of a color with our paint. We're going to be adding white to the color to make tints, the lighter versions of our color, and then we'll be adding black to the color to make shades and making the color darker. And then we'll be gluing them from dark to light or light to dark in a value scale. A value scale shows the lightest color down to the darkest color. So the way that we're going to start is we are going to get two pieces of paper. You're going to get one large and one small paper. You need to write your name on both and the day you have art. Very important you get your name on both because all of our papers today are going to look very similar. Then you're going to take the small paper and you're going to fold it in half long ways, like a hot dog bun. Or in this way, with my paper being this way, we folded it vertical. And then the large paper, you're going to fold in half like a book or a hamburger. And then you're going to fold it in half again. Now if you look at the folded papers, this paper folded in half, this paper folded 4 times, they are the exact same size. These are going to be the parts to our seascape. Alright, so we're going to start with this large paper first. You're going to get black paper to go under your work because you're going to be painting all the sides of your paper, the edges, and we don't want to get paint all over the table. You're going to need a water basin, a sponge, your colors, and then white and black, and your paintbrush. So my color is blue, and then I have black and white. So on this first big paper, you're going to take and just paint the blue as is. And you're going to paint this whole rectangle, just the color. So I'm using blue, but you might have red, or you might have orange or yellow. You might have green or purple. Whatever color you have, you're going to just paint that color as is. No mixing, no tints, no shades. And just paint this whole rectangle very evenly. Don't leave any white paper showing. And fill in all the edges. And paint right up against that crease of the fold so that this whole space, this whole rectangle is that one color. Now I'm going to make a tent. We're going to do 3 tents today. So I'm going to take my paintbrush. It's messy, but I'm going to be mixing colors, so it's okay to keep it messy right now. I'm going to scoop up some white, and I'm going to move it over to my blue that I just used and mix it around. And I need to see some sort of change. It doesn't have to be a big change, but it needs to be a little change, something that it clearly looks different from this one. So here's my new tent, and this is going to be my darkest tent because it has only a little bit of white in it. And now I'm going to add a little bit more white to the color I just painted, so adding more white is going to make it a little bit lighter. Now I haven't used this blue or this black at all. I'm saving that blue for my shades later on. Alright, now when you paint your new color, make sure there's a change between the two, that you can see a change. If you cannot see a change in the color, if I couldn't see a change between this one and that one, I would add a little bit more white to that. And now I'm going to add the remaining white, or most of what I have left, and mix it around. I'm going to be careful not to splash this blue paint into over here. I want to keep this nice and clean. So, and then here's my last tent, my lightest tent. Alright, so when you're finished with your large paper, I'm probably going to be walking around the room trying to help, and I'll probably get this out of your way for you and put that on the drying rack for you. If I'm busy, if I'm not moving around the room and you can't get my attention, then maybe you just need to put it on the drying rack for yourself. And your small paper is going to be 2 shades. So I need to mix black with my blue, but look at this paintbrush. It's totally covered in white and blue paint. And we never want to mix white, black, and the color together because that creates a grayish color, and that's not creating a shade. A shade is black plus the color. A shade is not white, black, and plus a color. So I need to clean this paintbrush off. I'm going to pull off this excess paint off the edge of my paintbrush first, and then I'm going to use these teeth at the bottom of my water basin to clean off this paintbrush completely. And then you have your sponge. Because we're using temper paint, we do not want a lot of water in our paintbrush, So you're going to use the sponge to clean it off. But I can't get this paint off this top edge of my paintbrush, so I'm just going to use my apron to wipe that off. And then I'm going to finish cleaning this out, using the teeth, trying to get as much of this paint off my paintbrush as possible. And now I use the sponge to dry my paintbrush off. If I'm getting paint all over the sponge, then I know I didn't rinse my paintbrush off all the way and I need to stick it back in the water and rinse some more. So I use the sponge, I dry this off. I'm not using this side with the flowers or the polka dots here because that's not as absorbent as the regular side. All right, now I'm going to mix black with my blue to make my first shade. So I'm going to mix some black, move some black over. If you have a lighter color, any color other than blue or violet, you only need a small amount of black to make a change. But since I have blue, I need a little bit more black than most of the colors. And remember, I have the crease down the middle, so I'm going to paint one side with this shade, and this is going to be my lightest shade because it has the smallest amount of black in it. So it's going to be a lighter shade. So the next color that I paint is going to have even more black in it, so it's going to be even a darker blue. And again, I don't need to wash my paintbrush now because I'm just adding more black. I'll scoop up more black and move it over, mix it around, and I paint my last shade on this small paper. And this is my darkest value. The lightness or darkness of a color is what a value is. And we're creating value with our paint by adding white or black to our color. And this is our shade paper, 2 shades, because we're adding black to the color. And then the other paper was our tints because we were adding white. So now you're done painting, and this is going to be the end of the first day. You're going to be done. This will go on the drying rack. You'll clean up your mess. You'll throw away your paint tray because you don't need that anymore. You'll rinse your paintbrush off, pour out the bowl of water, get fresh, and then put your sponge away. On the second day, you're going to come in and your papers are going to be nice and dry. All right, so for the second day of the Seascape, remember this is what we're shooting to create, a torn paper Seascape showing a value scale from light to dark. A value scale is the lightness or darkness of a color showing light to dark or dark to light. And we're creating a collage because we're pasting paper together, and collage is a French word that means pasted paper. So today, you're going to get back your painted papers. You've got your tint paper, your light version, your light values, where you've added white to the color and created tints. And then you have your small paper, which is your shade paper, where you've added black to the color to create your darker values. So now you're going to get this paper and a piece of construction paper that's the same color as your paint. So here's my paper. My construction paper. It has to be the same color as the paint. We're creating a value scale. It's all one color. Another fancy art term for one color is monochromatic. Mono means one, chroma means color. So we're creating a monochromatic Seascape with torn paper all in one color. So you're going to also need a little sliver of salmon colored paper for probably your son, and you're going to need to cut out a circle. Now, if you can't cut a nice circle out from the square paper on your own freehand like I'm doing right now, then maybe you need to draw it first and then cut it out. So you're going to cut that out. You're going to glue this on, and don't forget to write your name on the back of your construction paper. You're going to glue this onto the top of your construction paper. You can put it right in the middle and put it over to one side. It's really up to you. So we're going to start with our lightest version, our lightest value of this color. You're going to cut the rectangle off of the lightest value, and you're going to tear it down long ways, not short ways. If we tear it short ways, this paper won't reach, but if we tear it long ways, the paper is going to reach across the paper, across your construction paper. And you can tear it straight, or if you want it to be more of a rocky, wavy seascape, then tear your paper in curved edges. Then you'll have 2 pieces. I always like to use this piece because it has the white edge and it looks like a white capped wave in the ocean. And to me it looks a little bit more realistic. So this piece I'm not going to use. And I know it seems a little wasteful, but I'm going to recycle this. And this first piece gets glued up near the sun because that's going to be the farthest piece, the part of the ocean that's farthest away from us because it's the lightest value. And I'm going to line up one edge and try to get this up close to the sun so I have enough room for all my other values. Now when you look here, it doesn't exactly match up on this side here. I've got a little bit of purple paper poking out, and I will trim that off for you later. If you just focus on lining up one edge all nice and straight, I'll trim this other edge off for you. Now I go to my next darkest tint, the next value that's slightly darker, tear my paper again, recycle this, keep this. Now, when I do this and I overlap, I don't want any holes in your waves. I want it to look very realistic. So when I overlap, it's going to do a lot of overlapping over here, but hardly any here, so that I don't have any holes. I also want you to be generous with the glue and do a frame of glue. I don't want any of these pieces of paper flapping. If I glue it like this, I've got a hole right there, so I'm going to scoot this up, line up this one side. Oh, that's still not high enough. Alright, I made a bit of a glue mess, but that's going to get covered up with my next wave. So I go to my next one, line up this one side. This is my next darkest. This is my regular color as is, with no white or black. Line up that edge. Okay, so now I'm to my shades. I got to pick my lighter of the two shades, because remember the darkest value goes at the bottom. So this is my lighter of the two. And when you get to your last value, if you don't have a lot of space at the bottom like I don't, you can have that value hang off the bottom. And that's what I'm going to do here, just to show you what happens if this happens for you. So I'm not going to put glue all over the whole back of this. I'm actually just going to run a thick line of glue here at the bottom, and I'm going to let this value hang off the bottom of my construction paper. And so I want you to use your hands and try to hold this down, because you know when the paper gets wet with the glue or paint, it likes to curl up at you. Kind of hold it down and keep it flat. And once you kind of got that, you can go ahead and put this on the drying rack with your name on the back. And then before I put it on Artsonia, I will trim the one side that looks like it needs a little trimming. And now you have your value scale. You've shown a value scale from light to dark in a torn paper Seascape collage.